Lacrosse community, my name's Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to recognize the skills you gain from the sport, to ultimately live your best life possible. Today, we're so fortunate to be joined by one of Arizona's rising stars and his family, Ethan Tunucci and his father, Don. Tunucci family, thank you so much for being here today. Ethan's on his way to Bellarmine University after his senior year, and we couldn't be more excited to see an Arizona local going to play at the highest stage. For those in the community, though, that aren't quite aware of your story, Ethan and Don, can you share how you guys got involved in lacrosse in the first place?
Yes, sir, definitely. Thank you for having us on, first of all. But yeah, so I started off in fourth grade. There was a youth clinic that I decided to participate in. My parents told me that I should do it. I wasn't super fond at the time, but I was playing football at the time, and that was kind of all I was doing. And then I tried out lacrosse, and I just instantly fell in love with it. I stopped playing football in 7th grade and just continued on with lacrosse, and it's just kind of been my life since. But yeah, it's been a super awesome experience all the way since 4th grade, and tons of awesome coaches, and it's really been a great ride so far. I'm excited for the future.
Awesome. So Ethan, it sounds like you found one of those Trialax clinics and you were kind of hooked as soon as you found it.
Definitely. Had a great time right there.
Awesome. And then Don, from your side, it seems like Ethan's exposure to lacrosse was the first time you got exposed to lacrosse, or can you share a little bit from the parent side what it's like to get involved in the sport?
Yeah, for sure. So you're right. It was my first exposure to lacrosse. It might be a little bit surprising since I grew up in Connecticut, but never played lacrosse. It really wasn't prevalent in the portion of Connecticut that I grew up in. But yeah, as Ethan said, his mom and I encouraged him to give this I think it was a free clinic at the Anthem Community Center a shot, and he was bitten. He didn't put the stick down, and I can kind of fond memories of Ethan bringing his stick everywhere we went, whether it was to the grocery store or out to run errands. He always had that stick in his hands, and it actually generated a lot of interest from people. You know, what is that? The people who weren't familiar with lacrosse, what is that stick you're carrying? But you know, it also generated conversation from people that were connected to lacrosse. I remember going to the Nike outlet here in Anthem and meeting Parker Dickerson. He worked there, and he took Ethan's stick, and I could tell by the way he was handling it, he was familiar with lacrosse. And come to find out, he had a good college career at Salisbury and coaches at Brophy now. So really interesting how it happened, but super excited for him that he has such a passion and love for the game. And to be honest, it's become like it's how we spent family vacations for the last 6-7 years. You know, we'll go to a tournament and spend a couple of days on the front side and the back side, and it's just become something that we as a family all really love, have enjoyed, and will miss when Ethan goes away to college. But hopefully we'll be able to get to Louisville to see a few games from time to time.
I hope so. I remember my college experience. All the kids that were from out of town, their parents loved making trips. They made their own family though, and everyone was able to connect. So I have a feeling that that's in your guys' future. Ethan, looking at your lacrosse career so far, do you have a pinnacle moment, or are there a couple moments that stick out to you as highlights?
I would probably have to say my pinnacle moment so far is winning the state championship with my team last year. So that was really an awesome moment, not only winning the state championship, but doing it with the team that we did it with. So those were a set of kids that I've been playing with since I started playing 6-7 years. So we've kind of all played together, and I feel like it was a giant build up. And then we just kind of hit that pinnacle and we won it. And it was awesome to get blown out in the second game of the year and then come back and win in overtime in an awesome game with a lot of kids that we played against for 6-7 years. So I would say that would probably have to be my pinnacle moment so far.
Oh, and I totally forgot about that game in the rain up at Boulder Creek at the second time. But that's really neat to hear. You guys had been with each other for such a long time, grown with each other, and been able to accomplish just a massive feat. What do you attest to your guys' culture or community or reason why you guys stuck together for so long? Because there's a lot of teams that kids fall off or drop off.
Right. I would say that we were just such a close group of kids. We were a team, but we were, I would say, closer to a family than a team. I mean, we're all each other's best friends, and we're going, all the college kids are back now. We're going out to eat on Wednesday. So I'd say that we're a super close group of kids, and we've just kind of all stuck together, not only for the game of lacrosse, but to have each other's backs and be there for each other and play together. And I would say we always tried to do what we could to improve our team as well, whether it be staying after practice, going and shooting on the weekends on our own, just always having the grind mentality to stay together and do the best that we can do.
And that's something to highlight for any youth players that are watching right now. That grind mentality, staying after practice, showing up on the weekends, putting in that extra work. It's what it takes to play at the highest level. And it's great to hear you reinforce that, Ethan. Don, from your perspective, what was the highlight of this lacrosse career or your guys' experience with lacrosse so far?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Ethan. I mean, that state championship game was, you couldn't have written a better script. And as you mentioned, getting blown out early in the season, I think the score was 15-3 by Brophy, and to prepare for hopefully meeting them again in the state championship game. You know, the job that our coaching staff did to fill the gaps, to identify those vulnerable spots. You know, Coach Hillier, Coach Connell, Coach Straker, and Coach Krepchuk all did such a fantastic job in getting the boys ready for that matchup. And yeah, that was an incredible game. Two very, very talented teams, coaching staffs. I mean, it was fantastic. So I would agree with Ethan that it was perfect. And to be honest, going back to the point around this tight-knit group of players, you know, we're pretty uniquely positioned up here in Anthem, a little bit removed from the valley in a sense. And the kids that have been playing together in the youth program all transitioned to Boulder Creek High School together, unlike some of the other youth programs where they're kind of pulling from a few different areas. And once they hit high school, kind of go in a couple different directions. We're fortunate in that we have this pool of players that just kind of stick together and continue playing. And that becomes really apparent on the field. You know, the synergy, the fact that they know each other so well is really comes to light when they take the field together. So it's been a ton of fun to watch, as I said earlier, and look forward to the next stage at this point. Potentially another, you know, can we repeat?
Well, best of luck for you guys there. Where's our mindset right now, Ethan? And thinking about you being upperclassmen, usually that means you got that leadership mentality or you're in that position. What does leadership mean to you, and how are you positioning the team, or what role are you filling right now?
Definitely. So I view leadership in a couple of different ways. I view it as doing definitely doing the small things, doing the things when nobody's watching, because it eventually does set an example for others to do the right thing and follow in your footsteps. And I also view it as just kind of being an example for others, whether it be showing another attackman how to do a dodge, or going before practice to work on footwork, which anyone can do, defender, midi, attack, anyone, goalie. So I view leadership as maybe not necessarily, we're definitely being the guy to hype everyone up and everything like that, but being that example and of just working hard and doing the small things when nobody's watching. I think that doing the small things when nobody's watching is what pays off the most. I think that it benefits not only you, but I think that it certainly sets an example for others to follow and kind of realize, hey, this guy's doing something extra that's not that hard, but really beneficial maybe I can try it out too, or maybe I can go with him and do the same thing. So I think doing the small things right is a huge aspect of leadership. But I think that leaders can come in all shapes and sizes. I don't think that you need to be the best player on the field to be a leader. I think that you can step up as a freshman and be a leader if you're working harder than everyone else, and staying after practice and getting those extra reps and collecting the balls when on a water break if you all need water. I think just doing those small things add up to being the best player that you can be.
Absolutely. Ethan, thanks for that perspective of leadership. And it hits on a few things that we always like to highlight. Leaders usually can unlock some sort of capacity in others that they didn't even believe in themselves. But that's because you have a group of people that want to follow. And the reason they want to follow, or they like what the leader's doing, is because they set a great standard. So those high standards, picking up the balls, getting there early, putting in all the extra reps. They're someone who's nice and they get along with. There's some sort of empathy and connection. So that leader's taking time to get to know everyone, and you create that family culture and that best friend atmosphere. And when you have that, all of a sudden nothing's off limits. You get to get in someone's face if you need to, and you can have a truthful conversation, and you can be realistic, and you can get over any breakdowns that are going on that ultimately bring the whole team down. And it seems like that's where you're able to step up and show everyone what it takes to get the work done. You know what it takes from last year, and it seems like that was recognized while you were invited to play Division I lacrosse. Can you guys share a little bit about what that looked like in terms of going from youth lacrosse? When did you decide you wanted to play lacrosse in college?
So it's always just been kind of my long-term goal to play at the highest level I can play and find the right fit for me. So we've always attended tournaments and done all that stuff. So first off, I think that putting in the extra work, such as practices before tournaments, is really where you get better. So I think that first and foremost, it's most importantly to practice and prepare yourself and be the best player that you can be before doing all the extra steps to get recruited. I think that's the biggest part to it, is just being that player. And I think that's super important. When I started getting into September, I believe 21st of my junior year, I was taking phone calls all the way through to all different levels of colleges and all different coaches, and taking phone calls with any coaches that reached out to me. And even if I didn't end up being very interested in that school, it was great practice just to speak on the phone and get any jitters out that I had. So I think it's super important to be respectful of all the coaches' times and take phone calls from everyone. And I think that tournaments are super important. And I think it's super important for younger players just diving into September 21st of the junior year to reach out to coaches that are going to be at the tournaments and possibly making a connection with them, and then they come and watch you, and who knows what could happen. Maybe they're actually really interested. So I think it's a lot of small things that build into getting recruited, and I think it's super important to really find the best fit. I mean, I was talking with Bellarmine for a long time, and I kind of was able to realize that this would be a great fit for me. This would be awesome if I could go there, and it ended up working out. And I think I found the perfect match for myself. I'm super excited to be there with all those coaches who are super awesome. So I think that everything is meant to be. What happens, but you just have to keep moving forward and do what you can to put yourself on the big stage to talk with as many coaches as you can. And I also think it's super important to note that I found during the recruiting process, all coaches know each other, all levels, from club teams, MCLA club teams to Division I, they all know each other. So it's super important just to be respectful of all of those coaches, and they all talk. So I'd say that would be a huge point. Take all phone calls that you can take.
Your brand transcends who you're just speaking to, and that's huge. Is like you said, all the lacrosse community is pretty small. So when you're talking to a club coach, he probably played in college or back in youth lacrosse with some of these guys, and it's so neat. And that's where a lot of our conversations come from, is just how tight knit the community is. But you talk about being prepared, being able to be prepared for the tournament first and foremost that you're going to over the summer, and then trying to get exposure there? And were you going up to coaches at the tournaments and shaking hands, or can you share a little bit more about how you were building relationships before your junior year so that you were prepared to start receiving those phone calls?
Yeah, definitely. So if there was a coach at a tournament that I was interested in, or just kind of, I was like, hey, I should go. My dad would have said, hey, you should go introduce yourself. It took a little bit of confidence, but I ended up doing it because I realized that this could be my one shot to introduce myself and maybe get an eye. But yeah, I was always going up to coaches that were on my sideline watching, even coaches that were on another team sideline. And I had a game maybe in an hour. I would introduce myself, tell them, hi, I'm Ethan Tunucci. I'm playing with the Arizona Outlaws on field 3 in an hour. So that could have gotten an eye, and it did sometimes. So yeah, I think it's super, super important just to be as outgoing as you can and show that you're confident. I think that goes a long way with coaches as well. Just showing your personality and who you are, I think goes a long way as well.
No, that's massive. And Don, it sounds like you were a little bit of a prod in some situations, saying, hey, go over and speak to that guy. Can you share a little bit though about your perspective, Don, and how you're empowering Ethan to get this opportunity?
Sure. I guess a couple things come to mind. Firstly, I remember Coach Harbison saying to Ethan, grades open doors. So focus on academics, and Ethan thankfully has always been able to do that. So there's that component, and then writing to coaches, but not generic emails that you're going to use over and over, but rather tell a coach why a particular school or program is of interest to you. Is it the size of the school? Is it the geographic location? Is it the type of offense they run? Things like that. So being really specific about why you're interested. And Ethan spent a lot of time writing those emails, in particular ahead of tournaments. If we knew that a particular program would be present at one of the tournaments he was playing, a couple weeks in advance, writing to those coaches with that personalized email. I think was really helpful in the process. And last thing I'll mention, film. I mean, we spent hours and hours and hours cutting up film and creating highlights of obviously Ethan's best plays that we could attach to those emails that we sent out. And then maybe just a little bit of prodding to step outside your comfort zone. Go up to a coach and introduce yourself. Maybe there's been some email communication or even a text here and there, but face to face, having that one-on-one contact is always definitely the most beneficial. So, I think Ethan did a really nice job with that.
Oh, well, that's awesome to hear, because there's so much that goes into it. It's identifying the teams or the schools you want to play for. Obviously, you have to be able to get in first and foremost. So those grades should be first, then having those teams, and then being able to build a relationship with someone. Because as Ethan, you said, they want to know who you are. They want to know your personality, know that you fit in the environment that you're going to ultimately be in. And I think if you can build that custom letter, that initial leverage of a conversation of, hey, I like your school because of X or because of Y. And when you're able to make that very specific, and maybe you have something that is generic in terms of your background in the clip, but if you can be specific, that's something that's going to be really meaningful. And then you're able to continue to build the relationship time after time after time. If you two were to go back in time, so let's look back maybe freshman year. If you were a freshman, what would you do? Could you lay out a calendar knowing what you know now? How would you attack this? Would you do anything different? Or what would you give someone who's a freshman right now advice if they want to play at the highest level?
Maybe I'll start.
Go for it.
I don't know that there's a lot that we would do differently, to be honest. Ethan started writing to coaches as a sophomore, and he was aware that until September 1 of his junior year, Division I programs would not be able to interact with him, but still send letters of interest to coaches. So I think that part we did well. Some people may say you have to play on a national team at a national level. Ethan really didn't do that until this past summer when he played for Legends National. Before that, he was pretty true to the Arizona Outlaws, and I think we did that right as well. Kind of keeping our talent in the state, playing with top talent from across the state. Yeah, it might be difficult for that team at this point in time to travel to the most competitive tournaments and do well. But I think that was, in hindsight, the right call. And it really wasn't until this past summer, like I said, that we played 3 tournaments on the East Coast, pretty competitive tournaments, and that gave Ethan the little bit of that extra exposure I think that he needed. So from my perspective, I honestly don't think there's anything I would do differently. But I'm curious if Ethan maybe has thoughts there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And seeing where I'm going now and knowing that I found the perfect fit for myself, I think that everything worked out. And I'm super happy with how it worked out. So I think that we did everything right going into it. And I think loyalty is super important. So I think staying true to Arizona Outlaws and Coach Prep Chuck, who was really taught me everything I know. I think that was really important for me, and I'm super happy with how everything worked out. And I think that going to your other question about what I would tell a freshman, I would say grind as much as you can right now, because this is a time for you to focus on getting better and not have to worry about everything else. I think that just being able to focus on being the best player that you can be is insanely important. And if you're good enough, you'll make it. So I'd say that would be the biggest thing that I would just tell a freshman is do everything that you can extra off of the field, stay for reps after, give every single drill from warm-ups to the end, even if everyone else is slacking off. I would say give it 110% because it will pay off in the long run for sure.
Oh, Ethan, awesome. I think that's huge, is being able to go outside of what the norm is of the rest of the team. Even if they're slacking off, you're showing up time and time again because these are your reps. This is your opportunity to get better, so that come that 15 seconds you get in front of a coach, you can show them what you got. You can get the film and be successful. Now, would you tell a sophomore or junior something different? Or is there anything you'd add on top of taking advantage of every single rep if you were a sophomore, if you were a junior?
Yeah, so never stop giving everything 110%. But now there's more responsibility of emailing coaches and spending time calling coaches if you're at that point. The emails never stop. The making film never stops. So, but neither does the grind. So now you have more responsibility. And there were some weeks where I had seven phone calls, 9 phone calls in 7 days. So it's just more responsibility and more to be aware of, more time spent, more moving your schedules around and everything like that. But there's not a point where you want to stop and take away from getting better to focus on doing all the extras. So yeah, that'd be what I would tell a sophomore, junior, is just kind of get on it.
Now, Ethan, I think we know the answer to this, but that week you had 9 phone calls. I'm sure you had tests, projects, exams, tons of lacrosse. Did you make it through it?
Yes, sir. I did make it through it. Definitely made it through it.
Were you a little stressed at the time, or how were you feeling then?
There was a little bit of stress. Yes, sir. There was some stress in there.
Don, how'd you go about assisting Ethan? Because I think as you go through life, you realize there's going to be responsibility. There's going to be stress, time management, all these things that you're gaining right now, Ethan, they're going to pay huge dividends. You're going to be so successful moving forward, whether you realize that now or not. And it's so awesome that you're getting that exposure now. But on the other side of things, we know it, that's just part of life. Don, what were you doing though to encourage, whether it was encouragement or just support? How were you letting Ethan navigate this time when it seems like everything was coming at once?
Yeah, no, you're right, Ryan. I mean, these are life skills that he's learning through this process. You know, time management, being accountable, and having responsibility, being respectful of coach's time. Those are all really important lessons. And yeah, I think it was just, you know, helping him through it, supporting him through it, reminding him that this coach reached out to you. It may not be a school that was on your list, but it's important to be engaged, to be respectful of their time, and you know, maybe we walk away from this with a little bit more information that helps to inform the final decision. So I would say for all of those calls from schools that, you know, we hadn't even heard of, those all, you know, we gained from that. We gained information, and it helped. That all filtered into narrowing the scope, finding what was most important to Ethan, in narrowing down to a few schools, and ultimately making the final decision. So yeah, obviously as a parent, we're supporting at this point. You know, there's not much more we can do, but reminding of the importance and being as supportive as possible. Ultimately, I think Ethan made absolutely the best decision. I think that Bellarmine University is the ideal fit for him, and I don't want to speak for him, but you know, we think the world of the coaching staff, the time they took with us, the school, the location, the size, and even, you know, we watched the practice during our visit, and just watching the team play and then interact. You know, we met actually quite a few lacrosse players during our visit, during our campus tour. And every one of them came up, introduced themselves, and we walked away thinking, wow, this is a really great program.
Oh, that's so cool. And I want to be respectful of your guys' time. And thank you so much for sharing this whole journey. We're so excited for you, Ethan. Do you guys have any last thoughts on lacrosse or anything that you can impart on the community before we wrap this up?
Yeah, so I think I just want to add on, I think it's super important I've seen it time and time again, definitely in the state of Arizona. It's important to give back to the sport. And I think that's, I mean, all of the coaches have come from all over. Coach Prep Chuck from Canada has come back and started the Arizona Outlaws, giving back to the game. So I think it's super important to tell younger kids as they get older and maybe graduate from high school in a couple years, from college in how many years, that it's always great to come back and do things such as repping the AYL, the Arizona Youth Lacrosse League, or being a coach and helping out where you can. So I just want to add on to that and say that I think that's a huge part of the game right there.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome, Ethan. Thank you. Don, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm just really grateful for this journey that we've been on, that my wife Christine and I and our daughter Ava have been able to take with Ethan, and it's been incredible for our family, and we hope the same for others. And like Ethan said, you know, look forward to the continued growth of lacrosse in Arizona. I think there's a great deal of potential. That qualified, you know, really qualified, talented pool of coaches continues to grow, and that will only mean better things for Arizona lacrosse going forward.
Well, it's so excited to hear this story. Thank you guys so much for taking the time and sharing what you guys have been through so far. And Ethan, we're going to be cheering you on, man. Good luck with this season as well as in the next 4 years.
Thanks. Happy New Year, Ryan.
When you were targeting these schools, were you going off of where you could get into? What was the top college? Or how were you targeting the schools that were going to be at the tournaments? Or did you just send it to everyone?
Yeah, so I would look at a list of the schools that were at the tournament, And then I would kind of realize maybe I know personally I'm not going to go and play at Syracuse University, Duke University. I might not, even if I was to get in there, I'm not going to get playing time, would be my best educated guess. So I would kind of look at all other schools. I would send emails to every single other school that was attending the tournament that I thought that I would have a shot at being able to actually make an impact, be a part of the program. Even if I didn't play my first couple of years, which I probably won't at Bellarmine. But I may be a practice player, who knows? But I think that's super important just to continue emailing all of those other coaches.
I think it was directed by, Pat Harbison. Coach Harbison has been really great at helping Ethan to kind of find the right fit. He sent Ethan's film out to a number of coaches. And then, whether or not you get a response from that coach or any interest, it kind of helps to shape, okay, I could potentially play at this level school and maybe not at this level school. As those data points kind of continue to come together, you get a much better idea for, what's likely and what isn't. And that helps to shape kind of the target schools, I guess. Then there are those highs and lows. You might be on someone's list and you're getting, Ethan's texting with the head coach, and then it goes completely silent,
Right.
And you're like, what happened? And that's frustrating. So I think that's another piece that we could have touched on. Keep your head up, keep moving forward, even when you're disappointed or frustrated. It's important that all of these points are data points that eventually kind of help direct you to the place you're supposed to be.
And not all of the coaches get back to you. I send tons of emails, and coaches don't respond if they're not interested. Or you just have to keep going and keep emailing other schools, and those schools that do get back to you, that's a high, and you want to keep that going. So